All right. Hello, everybody. I guess we'll go around and start off by introducing ourselves. My name is Max Buckon.
I'm Emily Arsenault.
Jack Wilson.
Daniel Klein.
And today we will be discussing problems faced by James Dillard and his company, Systems Computers. I think we should start off by maybe addressing some of the initial problems that we found in the case. I'll go ahead and start off. For me, I thought some of the problems that I found right off the bat, I found a lot of gender bias in the workplace, kind of in forms of stereotyping to some degree. I think it's also important to focus on the inclusion. I think there was a lot of exclusion within the workplace. What about you, Emily?
I got that the workplace and the customer base is changing. Diversity is needed, but different people have different ideas about the workplace. There needs to be new ways of hiring. People have not reacted positively to changes in the process. Hiring and communications have been halted. Managers are refusing to change.
Good.
Yeah, so specifically I found a lot of, examples of harassment in the workplace. One of them was Charlie Nighthorse said that he felt supervisors were stereotyping job candidates because of their background, their cultural background. And then another one that really was troubling was that employees were harassing Amber, one of the new hires, because she was a woman, and they thought that she was too feminine for her job.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I see a lot of problems with employee diversity and harassment. I do see problems with profits disappearing, employee complaints, and lawsuit complaints, but mostly harassment. For example, Jose, he was born in America, but his family's from Venezuela, and people are harassing him, asking him if his family came across the border legally or not, and asking him if he's a Mexican. So I see a lot of problems with harassment.
Okay, I was about to say, just to summarize here, I think we all mentioned harassment to some degree or another. Also stereotyping and kind of biases of one degree or another. I know, Jack, you said the example with Amber, and Daniel, you said the example with Jose. If we were going to try to focus it and narrow it down to maybe one main problem, what do you guys think might be probably one of the biggest issues?
Well, I think the managers are a huge issue because they're not adapting, and the hiring communications are being on hold, which is the manager's fault. And the unpleasant work environment, the environment in general, I feel like has a lot to do with the managers, and how they're conducting business. So I think someone should talk to them probably.
So mostly harassment oriented is probably the biggest issue that we're looking at here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If we wanted to, analyze this problem a little bit more and look into it a little bit deeper, what would you guys find as some of the specific examples? I know you said the example with Amber. What else would we kind of hone in on with the harassment issue?
Amber, she's a new supervisor, and just because she's a female, she's been harassed about her being female, and they said that they're afraid that she might cry if they don't follow her directions, and one of them even asked her if she would rather be home cooking cookies. So
yeah, so
that's a big problem.
Yeah, whether it's sexual or even diversity harassment, I definitely think that harassment's the biggest issue that we're facing here. If we wanted to start looking at some of the criteria, what we would want to establish to help address some of these solutions, what are some things that you would think?
I think the solution should be relatively cheap and should be implemented quickly, and should provide a healthy work environment for everyone.
Jack?
Yeah, like you said, talking about the environment, I think that we should be cognizant of what the attitude of the workforce is in general with the diversity. And then on top of that, establishing what we want as a retention rate for these new hires, making sure they're feeling included in the environment and not feeling outsiders.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I think the solution should be definitely cost effective. It shouldn't cost too much money, just so our profits won't go down too much. I think the solution also must be done by a certain point. It should be time effective, and also I think it should benefit all the employees and the customers as a whole. So it'll benefit the company as a whole.
Good. I know we all definitely mentioned cost is a huge criteria that we need to focus on, as well as time. I definitely think that the solution should be cost effective. I think that's really important for our group. I also believe that the solution should be implemented quickly. I think that was another one that you addressed that was a very sound answer. But also, to add on to yours, Jack, I think the solution should have a strong retention rate within the company. I think that's obviously important to show that the criteria that is established is effective and working in its proper order. Moving on to generating some possible solutions that we may have. I was thinking simple things of maybe some training techniques within the company, but also firing problematic employees. Whether it's employees on the sexual harassment side or even diversity issues here and there. I think we do need to maybe terminate some of those foul employees. Emily, what do you think?
Well, I think we really need to think about like how much we want to spend and how drastic our actions need to be, and like our time frame to make sure it's done quickly. But I agree with like what you said. We just need to figure it out.
No, good.
Yeah, I know the two ones that have really been discussed is the firing of employees, but the firing of employees and the institute training program, but I think we kind of have to worry about with firing employees what ethical issues might arise. If we get sued because we're firing them just because, there's a good enough reason to fire them because of diversity, but they might see it from a different perspective and feel that we're just firing them because they're not trying to fit the environment we want.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with Emily saying about the cost effectiveness. I think whatever we do should be cost effective. I think the employees should be trained on diversity and harassment. I think that's a big thing that we should do. I also agree with the termination of some employees, even though it might come up with some concerns. I think that the main people we're having problems with before the training session we should probably get rid of, because in reality the training session might not do much for them. And then I also think giving managers some incentive, like some bonus incentive for how well they train their employees could also be an effective solution.
It's a good one. This is just a kind of idea out in far left field here, but as a possible solution, what would you guys think about terminating this diversity program that was implemented? I know it was a new thing that the company started, and even I know the employer talked about bringing on employees based off their diversity and not their actual qualifications. What are your thoughts to maybe some of the possible solutions on that?
I think diversity is important, and I know the managers haven't been receptive of it, but I just think like the whole company in general needs to have a really good talking to about like the importance of it, and I don't think we should get rid of it.
Yeah, I agree with what Emily said about making sure that people understand why diversity is important. It goes beyond the workplace, and whenever someone works for that company, they should know that it's more than just working for that company. That whenever someone sees that they work for that company, they can tell like the cultural environment that is with that associated with that company.
Yeah, I agree. I think harassment's the biggest issue that we have, and I also agree that they should not be hired just because they're diverse. Diversity is a big issue, but as well as that, I think that they should be hired off of credentials and other factors as well. So.
But you also believe that terminating the entire diversity program is probably not an effective solution.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree. So I think to recap here, I think the biggest solutions that we're looking at are probably training or termination of bad employees. Now to take that and evaluate it against the criteria that we kind of established. Look at the first one. The solution should promote a strong retention rate within the company. What possible solutions with training and terminating do you think will have an effect on that criteria?
Well, I think we definitely should go towards training, because if we are trying to retrain people and keep them here, we want them to stay with the company, and just the whole firing and rehiring and training process is an expensive one. So I definitely think we should lean more towards training what we have, but if they're not receptive, then we gotta do what we gotta do. So
Absolutely. Jeff?
Yeah, I think a mixture of termination and training should be implemented. It sounds a little cliche, but introduce kind of a 3-strike policy. Not necessarily 3 strikes, but our employees should know that this behavior won't be tolerated, and that if they keep doing what they've been doing, there will be consequences. You know, a possible suspension, without pay, stuff like that.
Good.
Yeah, I agree. The biggest issue is harassment, and we should definitely train our employees, but if they're not, like you said, if they're not receptive to it, there's not much more we can do than to either fire them or put them on suspension until they really learn that this company won't tolerate that.
I see what you're saying, yeah, so focusing on, the retention rate of the company, obviously, terminating bad employees probably, defeats the whole point of the retention rate to begin with, so definitely training for that one. What about our solution being cost effective, in regards to training and or terminating? I know terminating, sometimes they have, I'm trying to think what the word is called, whatever package you get when you get fired and they hand some money to you.
Severance package.
Severance package, thank you. So for the solution to be cost effective, what are your thoughts on that in terms of training and termination?
Yeah, I still think training I think is more cost efficient just because you have to pay someone if you fire them, or also bringing in a new person to the company and retraining them with how we do things is expensive. So I think it's easier to train our current employees about diversity acceptance than having to retrain a whole new person to our ways. But like I said, you gotta do what you gotta do if they're not receptive.
Yeah, what Emily said, that kind of hit the nail on the head. Training is more important because if we're going to fire somebody, we're going to have to train regardless. If we fire somebody, we're going to have to train that new person in the job that the person was fired was already doing.
That's a phenomenal point, which is completely opposite of being cost effective.
Yeah.
Daniel?
Yeah, I think training is a big thing, and we can make it fit into the cost-effective model. We can train during hours, during regular hours, and we can definitely make it work, I think.
Good. And then our final criteria that we we're honing in on, the solution should be implemented quickly. With the solutions that we were looking at, whether it's training or termination, what is probably the best way to make sure that it's enacted quickly in a way that's spread out throughout the company in a timely manner?
I mean, I think definitely training for diversity is quickest because we already have the employees here. We can train them, figure out some kind of program for them. Whereas find out new employees, the whole interview process, and it's definitely a lot longer process than just retraining what we have.
Agree.
Yeah, I agree. The training process seems much quicker, and that it'll actually we'll see the benefits right away. Whereas firing somebody, who knows? If we fire somebody, that might ruin the entire cohesiveness of the company. If everyone really liked the guy and they're like, oh, he got fired, I wonder why. It might cause more issues that we're not aware of.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Training can be pretty quick and effective, and like I said, they already have the diverse employees, so we already have everybody, and we will be okay training them. We'll have time to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, firing somebody, it may not be a quick time to find a new employee to come in there and take their place, so that may not be the best way of looking at it. So I think it's pretty good for us to conclude that our main solution here to solving some of the harassment issues that we found in the workplace is probably through training techniques. Would you guys kind of agree with that statement as a whole?
Yeah, I think training is the best option for us.
Good. Do you guys believe that we have met the goal that we established, trying to find the problems that were set out by James Dillard, the president of Systems Computers?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think there's a plan.
Yeah, for sure. We found a lot of problems, and I think we came up with the solution that fixes it.
I agree. I think after talking with you guys and brainstorming some ideas here, I think we have found maybe the best method of trying to address a lot of the problems that we initially found.
For sure.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much.
Awesome. No problem.
Thank you.